Hey everyone, Anthony Fantano here, filming vertically for you. Internet's busiest music nerd. Hope you're doing good. Wanted to have a bit of a ramble here about a big upset in the music, new media landscape right now, and that is Joe Budden leaving Everyday Struggle on Complex. Full disclosure, Complex is my personal multi-channel network as well, so I guess take everything I say with a full understanding of that, I guess. One of the biggest splashes in the music and rap world this year, in my opinion, has been the creation of this show. I'm not just coming out here and saying, like, I think it's amazing or I think it's, a game changer just because Complex is my network. I seriously think it was definitely a game changer. DJ Academics coming through, Joe Budden coming through in the studio, and having these very lively, somewhat moderated, and very passionate and sometimes angry and totally volatile and unpredictable discussions about everything having to do with rap music right now. Good guests on the show too. Not all of whom were sort of amazing just because you're like, wow, you got that person, but good because they sort of broke the dynamic up, and there was always an X factor in every episode. Was this particular artist going to have an issue, or was a topic going to come up that was a little taboo or controversial, or would Joe fly off the handle? I'll admit, at first when I saw the show, I was like, I don't know about this, but I think the reason I was because I have followed DJ Academics for a long time, and I've spoken with him on the phone on numerous occasions, and we're very cordial with one another and acquainted. So when I was watching the show, I was thinking about it more from the standpoint of, wow, like, I've talked to this dude on numerous occasions and had real long conversations with him, and I can tell, like, watching the show, he's visibly, like, annoyed and frustrated, just like trying to work through these conversations sometimes. However, that is where the sort of genius of the show truly lied, because as it grew and as it progressed, it's sort of that volatility, and again, I'll say that X factor that always made the show interesting, even if they were on a topic or had a guest that was just kind of subpar or just average or okay. And while I wouldn't say Joe is 100% responsible for how entertaining the show is, when you average out most of the episodes of the show, when there was a certain X factor or, a great line or a great meme or a super memorable moment to come out of an episode, a lot of the time it did come down to Joe. Now, listen, I'm not saying that's because Joe is some kind of genius content creator. He's obviously super talented and a super savvy guy and a super smart guy and a very he is cynical, but he's very smart and he watches out for himself. He doesn't let anybody get the better of him. Sometimes that's to his detriment because it seems like he has a hard time collaborating with other people and kind of, compromising to sort of get to that higher level. It sort of seems like he's the kind of person who just wants things and wants to do things on his own terms. I could totally respect that. But still, a lot of that genius of the show and what made the show so great was, Joe's narcissism, his unpredictability, the way that he would kind of pull apart topics, the fact that even if he wasn't 100% right on a point, he argued it with like such compelling passion. And I sort of, really grew to appreciate Joe as a co-host, as a co-anchor, whatever you'd want to call it, on the show. In my opinion, he's going to be sorely missed. And I feel like it's going to be hard to kind of continue the show for several different reasons. I feel like, for one, and it really has nothing to do with the infrastructure. Obviously, Complex and their parent company, and obviously the budget is there to continue to do that. And for everything that I know and understand, it seems like DJ Academics is still interested in doing the show. However, you've kind of given audiences a taste of a certain dynamic, of a certain expectation level, of a certain type of very passionate and very interesting kind of banter. And you can't just sort of throw another person into the mix who is as kind of just chilled out and super rational like DJ Academics. Like, you need somebody to get in there and really kind of tear things up, disagree, be that sort of a hurricane a little bit. And I don't think just anybody could do that. I don't think anybody could do that. In my eyes, Joe is irreplaceable. At least if you want to attain that same kind of dynamic. Maybe they'll retool the show and rethink it, and they'll come together with another dynamic that is just as entertaining, just as satisfying for audiences. But some of those memorable moments of the show this past year, a lot of the time they came down to Joe. It's sort of surprising that Complex wouldn't want to do more to keep him on board, though, Joe does seem like the kind of person who came through feeling like almost from the outset that he wasn't getting what he was justly owed for his part in the show, what he says is his creation of the show. He recently did a podcast on this whole thing, which I will link down to in the description box. He says kind of the straw that broke the camel's back was Complex wanted to cut a deal with Spotify, and Joe wanted a cut of that, and and there was obviously a falling out over that, according to Joe. I don't know. It's really interesting. I know I'm sort of sitting on the edge of my seat, waiting to see where this goes next. I wish the show all of the luck in the world, because I do think it has become a kind of pivotal bit of the media landscape right now. I enjoy it. I think it adds a lot to the discussion. I think it adds a lot to the culture. Even if there are a lot of people out there who sort of, you watch the show, I feel like up until this point, you don't so much enjoy the show as much as you experience the show, which is why when I see people talking about it, a lot of the reactions sometimes are like, ugh, Joe's so annoying, or DJ Academics has his head up his ass, or blah, 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 blah. And, honestly, you may feel that way, but you still watch. You still watch, though. You still watch. You can't call the show boring. And that's my number one fear. My number one fear is without Joe, the show kind of becomes just really predictable, and hopefully that doesn't end up being the case. Hopefully the show, moving forward with whoever they bring into the fold, continues to live up to the name Everyday Struggle, because I feel like if that struggle's not there, are people going to watch? I don't know. But yeah, guys, let me know what you think down in the comments. Were you guys Everyday Struggle viewers? Are you going to miss Joe? Do you think that there's any chance of him coming back at this point? And if they are going to move forward without him, who can they even replace him with? Because I feel like the typical answer, or the obvious answer, will be somebody saying, oh, well, just replace him with some other old head who's going to just disagree with DJ Academics over whether or not Little Uzi Vert is good. And honestly, I feel like that's a mischaracterization of Joe. Yes, he had some old head mentalities to him. However, he was a savvy dude. He knew or knows the hip hop landscape of right now. He may not appreciate it or enjoy it or indulge in it in the way that Millennial does, but he certainly knows the industry. He certainly knows his stuff, and he's not completely ignorant to what the new generation is doing. He may be super cynical, and he may be super combative, but that doesn't mean that he's just completely out of the loop and is going to openly reject anything and everything that young people and the new generation and this new wave of hip hop is doing. So I feel like just simply throwing some dude with, a North Face and Tim's on into the studio, to talk about like how great Dipset was, is not the solution, So I'm gonna move on from here. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. You're the best forever.